there were a couple points in the book that really caused me to pause. Really caused me to pause, and not in the sense of how he taught pause, but just pause in terms of being able to digest the concepts and determine as to whether or not I agreed with it. And one of them was around just the whole idea of scarcity and mindset. I'll be honest with you, when I first developed this topic, when I think about scarcity, I always think about it from an economical perspective, right? So, not having enough resources, you, and because we don't have enough resources, the the behavior and the characteristics that people exude when there's not enough. And so I had a focus around that without fully thinking comprehensively about scarcity, that there's other ways to think about it. And he focused on it from an emotional and a relational perspective, as it related to people who have enough, but they exude imposter syndrome. Or, and what I mean by that is that they have enough, they've done enough, they're very successful, but they feel like they need to do more, and they're always constantly reaching. And he positioned that as scarcity. And so I struggled with that. I was like, no, I didn't struggle with it, but I was like, oh, that's a different way to look at it. I don't think I looked at scarcity in that manner, right? So for me, I looked at it, from a standpoint of, competition, individuals intentionally unleveling the playing field, information hoarding, sabotaging. But he helped me to understand that there's a different way to look at it, and I appreciated that. But I'm still digesting it. I'm like, do I call that scarcity? But I'm still digesting that. The other point was the notion of how our thinking plays into self-sabotage. Um, he talked a lot about the difference between a thought and thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and the steps in which we could take to shift out of thinking into a state of contentment and flow within our lives. And I struggled with that because I was like, gosh, have I ever looked at thought and thinking as two separate entities? I always looked at them jointly, right? If I have a thought, I'm going to be thinking about that thought and then, come to a conclusion, etc. So that concept of and separating a thought and thinking, that that was a bit complex for me. And and so I spent a lot of time trying to understand where he was coming with that. But to go back to your point, one of the things that I truly appreciated is that throughout the book, he had an understanding, right? He had an understanding that some of the concepts that he was sharing was Eastern centric and leaned on Buddhist teachings. And
Uh-huh.
if
That's what I was
you
just getting ready to tell you.
were you
To
about
to
to
your
say,
point,
mm-hmm,
about the thought and thinking, I was
right.
able to relate it to mindfulness and meditation.
Correct. That
That's
because you
exactly what
hear,
I couldn't hear what you said. You said what?
no, I was just saying, because that's exactly what you hear and we learn about when we are meditating. And when you grow up in a particular cultural environment, and that environment doesn't necessarily teach you that respective concept, that it's a struggle to understand the thought,
Right.
the thinking, all those differences and the nuances within. And what I appreciated is that he really took time to help us understand why these two are separate, right? And so with that knowledge and the concerted effort that he made to help us better understand, it really helped me to um, better understand how I can leverage that concept to improve within my own life